Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Meredith, and I'm the CEO of the World's Best Connectors. I have a couple of different companies, but World's Best Connectors is celebrating its fifth anniversary this year. So we're very proud of the organization. And what it is, it's a community of C-suite executives to help other executives get their job done. So it's not necessarily B2B or all of that. It's CEO to CEO. And it's been around, as I mentioned, for about 5 years. We have a lot of experts in different areas, HR, AI, real estate development, et cetera. If you have a problem as an executive, give us a call. Either we'll be able to solve it or we'll be able to find somebody to solve it. As people know who have been around us for the past 5 years, we do a lot of seminars. I like to do informational seminars for executives, working with them on topics that they really don't ever talk about, want to talk about, but need to talk about. So we've had acquisitions and mergers, sustainability, all of those great topics, which sound absolutely boring, but the seminars were great and people learned a lot. What we're focusing on this year, which is really different, but it shouldn't be, is family. One of our five areas that we focus on is family, and that's something that a lot of CEOs do not talk about ever. Okay. And it's something they need to be talking about. In this case, we're going to be talking about athletes. As people that know us, there's a lot of activity going on around student athletes. And a lot of that, I've always been involved, as people know me with that. I had Linking Sports and Communities, youth sports nonprofit here, successful nonprofit for 14 years. I helped work on a football stadium. I've been in sports for the 30 years that I've been here in Arizona. But there's a lot of activity now around NIL, name, image, and likeness. And I have to remember to say that because not everybody is a sports nut, but anybody who's in sports knows what that is. NCAA changed the rules and said kids could get paid to play sports in school, which I've always been in favor of. What I wasn't in favor of was they just sort of threw it out there with no policy regs or anything, and people went crazy. So it's been pretty crazy the past few years. But what WBC has decided to do is focus on the students and parents themselves, not what school is going to outbid what school or et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to open it up quite a bit. NIL, most of it is focused on football because that's where the money is. You do have an occasional woman, Caitlin or whatever, come up, but we're going to be open to any student, any school, any sport. So Olympics is coming up right now. Think of those kids and their parents and what they've sacrificed to get to the Olympics. If you win a gold medal in javelin, do you have a career when you come home? Probably not. So, but you deserve one. And you have one thing people don't realize is the talent that athletes have. We only look at how fast they can run, but they tend to be leaders. They tend to be charismatic. They tend to be very disciplined, exactly the kind of people we need in business. So our goal, WBC, our new vision is to create 1,000 new business leaders in the next 2 years. So that's where we're at. That's where we're headed. And to do that, we need both the parents and the students involved. One thing I used to notice when I was in government and a consultant as well, I would go into these companies and I would tell the CEO and the head person, the answer to most of your problems is right here. The person sitting at that desk probably knows what you need to do. And it's that way, I think, in sports too. Athletes, parents have a lot of issues right now, a lot of problems, a lot of confusion, money, and all the stuff running around that things they weren't trained to do, things that they don't know how to do. There's a lot of confusion going on. And yet there's a lot of things that they do know just based on experience and working with kids and raising kids. So what we're going to do is have a mixture of that. WBC is going to be providing a lot of just really official, formal training for students. That'll start in the fall. And for parents, we're going to have a lot more rolling out, a lot more intensive things for parents. So all kinds of courses that you can take, counselors you can sign up with, et cetera. I call it the 3 Rs: resources, references, and referrals. You'll be getting that from us. But I also want to make sure you hear from other parents because they have a lot of the answers they've been through. So we're going to start that today with the panel that we have today. I'm very excited about this panel. We have three folks that are have a lot of experience in business and sports. But what I want them to talk today about is family and some of the uh, problems they dealt with, but a lot of the successes that they've had. And hopefully you will learn a lot from them. But this is just a start. We have three sets of people on today, but this is just a start. But if you have some questions that you want to ask, we won't be able to get to too many of them, obviously, but please put them in the chat and I will try to get those answers or those questions to them after they finish their discussions and see if that helps as well. So with that, I want to start with Velma Draymond. And Velma, I met her, I don't know if it was the first day she was here. It seemed like it, no. Really early after that she moved here to Arizona. And little did we know the future that was coming up. And she was a very successful businesswoman. I was impressed right from the start. She was moving here from the East Coast, know what she was doing, know how to do it. And I was excited about having her in our community for the business that she had. But we got a special bonus recently in which she agreed to be the new CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona. And people may or may not know that I started that organization back in 1998 when the dinosaurs ran down Central Avenue. Um, but I think, we've come full cycle. I'm very excited about it. I think she's going to do a wonderful job with that opportunity. But with that, we're going to start with Velma and hear from her. And she has I've met her son, and he's growing up pretty fast, but she'll talk a little bit about him and what he's done in the business world already with that. So we'll start with Velma. Are you on?
Hi, I'm on. I'm actually waiting on, it looks like Ron is going to unlock my video. I can't, it's telling me my video is locked or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, we can come back to you. Want to do that? Because Mike is on. Mike and Lorenzo are both on. So why don't we start with Mike? And he goes, "Oh no, I wouldn't want to be first."
I thought we was gonna let the lady go first, but
Yeah.
it's okay. It's all right. I don't mind starting. Thank you so much, Ms. Denise, for having me. It's a tremendous pleasure and honor to be here and to share my testimony and be able to give some insight to parents out there as well as student athletes. And so, just a brief background. As you can see, Kansas State in the background. Born and raised out of Dallas, Texas. Graduated from Dallas Skyline in 2011, and then I went on to Kansas State University, where I started playing football. When I went to Kansas State University, well, I'll backtrack a little bit just to take you through the whole piece of it. So, my senior year at Skyline High School, I admitted as a junior. I graduated as one of the Texas top 50 players in Texas, and so I had several offers that came in. Had a lot of offers that came in as a junior. I committed to the University of Minnesota as a junior under Tim Brewster, and that was the school that I wanted to go to. A week before signing day came, Jerry Kill got the job at Minnesota University. They fired Tim Brewster, and Jerry Kill told me a week before signing day that he did not want me. Pretty much. And so I had to go back to the drawing board, figure out what university will I attend, go to. For those that don't know how the scholarship portal works and how scholarships work in high school when you're getting scholarship offers, they may offer you, but if you don't take that offer, they will offer several more players. And that's what happened to me at Skyline is that I had several different offers going from Iowa to Iowa State to Minnesota to Kansas to so many other schools. But I was set in Kansas State was an offer I received, and they were still able to take my scholarship away. And so I had Texas Tech University in Miami, Kansas State University that were still on the table. With Texas Tech and Miami University, I had to wait till after signing day to see if they still had a scholarship on the table, just because I was going to decommit. And so I went with Kansas State. Kansas State told me that they had a gray shirt available for me, which if you don't know what a gray shirt is, what that means is that you sign a scholarship. I had the opportunity to go down in the summertime, fight for a position, and become on their incoming freshman list, or I will fall back into their winter group, which I think I'm back. And so what I was saying is that I got what the great rate is that you're coming in on that New Year scholarships, and so in went down to Kansas State University. That summertime had a hard summer, and that was one of the things that I really want to touch on with the parents and as well as the athletes, being able to let them know about what is it when you leave high school and you're going into college. Because I would definitely tell you, I was not prepared from a mental standpoint. Physically, I was prepared, but mentally, I was not prepared for what they were bringing to the table and what I was getting myself into. And so the thing about college football and college sports for anybody that's wanting to go professional, professional football, basketball, their job in college is to break you down, bring us and break him all down and to build him up in the way that they want to step there. To be fierce. A lot of times that's not explained to us into the game. We think that you was a athlete at the high school and you got to fight for position, which I already understand that piece. We don't truly understand the mental breakdown, the mental component. Mike has a bandwidth problem, maybe on Wi-Fi. Yes, I am on Wi-Fi. Do I need to take this, switch it to my phone and get off of Wi-Fi? Would that help?
One of my sayings about myself is I'm a tech person that hates tech. This is why. So we'll ask for your patience as we get this straightened out. Thank you. Okay, I'm back so far. What we're going to do is switch again. We found some other persons that's working, and while we work on Mike's, but Mike has some really important, as you see, information to impart to us from both perspectives. We haven't even gotten to his family yet, which that's really interesting as well. So hold on. And who are we going to put on next? Did we get Velma back? Velma, are you there?
I'm still here. However, it said you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay. It's not me, unfortunately. Okay, we'll try. Well, uh, Lorenzo, it's up to you. Lorenzo, are you there? Yep.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, yours is working. You
Yeah,
wanna
yeah,
go?
it's working great. I know,
Okay.
I'm one of those people too, right? I love technology. It's like a love-hate relationship. So I definitely understand, right? When you want it to work right, it starts acting up. So, but
I'll let,
thank you
I'll
for
let,
having me on, Denise.
I'll let you
Really,
go.
yeah, really appreciate it. Obviously sports has been a significant part of my life, since growing up. My parents and my uncle, who helped raise me, always had an emphasis on sports and academics ever since I can remember, starting to playing baseball and basketball and soccer, back in, at the age of 5. And so it's always been a significant part of who I am and what I do. And really, as I've grown, using sports as a tool to continue to impact people. But kind of going back and starting from the beginning, essentially in high school, was considered one of the top tier players in the nation. Coming out of high school in Oakland, California, I went to St. Mary's High School, college prep, and had a lot of offers, had a lot of friends around me, teammates as well, get offers. And everybody didn't go D1, but we always had guys going at every level. And so that was always something that, as I've gotten older, making sure that I let parents and kids know, right? It's not getting the scholarship is the goal, but sometimes we worry about whether it's D1, D2, D3, NAIA, right? We all have to figure out where we fit into the process. Once I got my scholarship, I decided to go to University of California, Berkeley for various reasons. Wanted to stay close to home. They had a significant engineering program that I wanted to be a part of, as well as being able to play football in the Pac-12 or Pac-10 back then, to date myself a little bit, as far as allowing my family to watch me play. You know, my mom could come up there every Saturday, didn't have to worry about traveling unless it was an away game, and was able to play there for 4 years. Get my degree, and then eventually be able to play in the NFL, right? And obviously I'm blazing through that a little bit, but I know the college and high school process has changed significantly since I was being recruited. But some of the principles that I'll kind of go back to a little bit later once I get into my family dynamic, because I am a father of 4. 3 of the 4 are potentially going to be athletes and have an opportunity to get a D1 scholarship. And I think a lot of the same principles, even the process is different with NIL and social media. None of that was really around at all, especially above board, right? When we talk about NIL, when I was back in school and how that works and how that impacts. But I think a lot of the principles, when we talk about character, when we talk about integrity, when we talk about being humble and hardworking, all of those things going into the recruiting process, I think still remain true. We just hear about the money a lot more. But when we have recruiters, that I have a lot of guys that I play with that are now recruiters, college coaches, they always talking to me about certain principles that I want to make sure the kids, but also the parents have to understand it as well, because you have a role in it. And I think you have to have a clear picture of what that looks like. So a little bit back to once I graduated from Cal, I went undrafted into the NFL. All right. So I was a top tier high school kid, could have went anywhere in the country, went to college, played well, but at the same time didn't get drafted. And there's a lot of reasons into that. And I think Mike was kind of alluding to that, right? The mental aspect, coaches trying to break you down, right? It becomes more like a business even back then, right? Coaches have a job to do. And if you don't win games, they get fired. And understanding this now as an adult, they have to feed their family. And so there's certain stresses that they have to go to, and they don't always do the best job, but you have to learn how to navigate that system. And everybody's experience is a little bit different. But once you walk onto that campus, you have to understand what is being asked for you, the money that's being invested, the time and energy, the resources, and how some coaches can approach that in a positive or negative way, right? And depending on where you fall in line in that pecking order of are you a top tier recruit, or you're low, or you're a walk on, right? Everybody's path is going to be a little bit different. And that's what I experienced, right? I was a top tier guy coming out of high school, but when I was in the NFL, I was undrafted, right? So I might as well have been that walk-on kid trying to find their way in the league. And for me, it came down to several things to being able to grow and thrive in this space. Number one, you have to find guys that are older than you and latch onto them and figure out how did they stay in this long and what things that they do while they're doing that. And as a result of that, number two, you have to be humble and honest about who you are and being self-aware as far as where you fit in. Am I that good? Am I really that good? Or do I just think I'm that good? Do I have great character, or do I just say that, you know, when I'm in front of the coaches, I have great character, but when I'm at the house or I'm out at this party, I'm acting totally different, right? You have to make sure you have to be honest with yourself. And then I think 3 is just being a lifelong learner. I think sometimes we think we got it figured out. And because I had success in high school or maybe middle school or college, I think I can just rest on that information, right? Things are constantly growing and changing, and we have to have a growth mindset to allow ourselves to continue to grow. And I think that's why, because of those 3 things, I had somebody model it for me. I was humble enough to accept it. And then I started adopting this growth mindset, let alone, I found my faith, and that's a whole different story, but that matured me as well. And it's one of the foundations and the cornerstone of who I am today. Those things allowed me to take being undrafted, being a 315-pound D tackle, and then eventually becoming an all-pro linebacker right? And having this unique story. And so I played 15 years in the NFL, met a lot of great people, coaches, teammates, right? People in the front office, building these authentic relationships as I went along, whether I was that undrafted guy or I had that big contract, right? It's all about building relationships. So now that I'm done, I'm able to go back and talk, and because it's different when you're not playing, but if you have those relationships, you're able to reconnect, right? And you can do that right now in your high school or your college that you're at, building those authentic relationships throughout the organization, on campus, with teachers, professors, and other people that are around that space that are going to be going off and doing great things as well, right? We always want to have relationships, right? That's what gets you typically an opportunity, and then who you are and how you, and what the value you bring allows you to stay and thrive in that process. And so one of the greatest things I got out of my time in the NFL was meeting my wife. We've been married almost 16 years now. We have 4 kids. My oldest is 28. She has her master's. She graduated from the University of Arizona, got a master's at Grand Canyon, where I also got my master's from after I retired. I have a 13-year-old, oh, he just turned 14-year-old 8th grader. I have a 15-year-old, be 16, about to be a junior. She's at Xavier College Prep, and she's a 3-sport athlete. My 14-year-old that I just mentioned, Mason, plays all the sports, really gifted, probably the best athlete in our family right now. And then we have our baby who's about to be 10, and he loves chess, right? All of our kids are different, all over the place, right? And my job as a parent is trying to help figure out what they're passionate about and support them in that process as far as discovering who they are through sports, right? Sports isn't who they are, but I think sports is a great tool to allow them to develop these characteristics and really figure out, what am I gifted at? Where am I weak at? Let's build on those things so that whenever I walk into any other space, I'm able to be impactful, right? I think oftentimes that gets kind of convoluted and crossed over as far as sports or our profession being who we are. It's just a tool to impact people and bring our ideas and our value into a space, as I've found, over the years. And that has been really my legacy, I think, in a lot of ways. I played for 5 different organizations. I went to a Pro Bowl. I was nominated for Walter Payton Man of the Year. But my legacy is going to be in my kids, in the community, and how I impact it and pay it forward. And that's what I'm looking like as a parent, right? How can I support them, right? I'm in the background. And I think as I've made this transition, right, I do some NFL radio, do some coaching with youth sports. So I'm in the space a lot. I'm about to get into this recruiting process and trying to navigate that and ask teammates who have kids that have gone before me, like, what does this new space look like? But these are some of the things that I see that are alarming in some ways. Obviously, the NIL money is great, right? I think obviously being able to access that, even though it's not for everybody, again, we got to realize who we are. But I think the better thing is, off the NIL now, you have the ability to work and use your brand, right, on social media or using camps to make money off of who you are and what you do as well, right? So I think NIL, I think most people just think about, what money can I get, right? Obviously, the scholarship is always going to be a great opportunity. Athletes understanding, and I know why, and this is why I think a lot of people get messed up with the scholarship. Well, that's money. No, it's not. They're just giving me access, and there's value in the access, right? But as an 18 and 22-year-old, I got to understand, I got to take advantage of that access. And that's where we start closing that gap. When you take advantage of being on these top tier universities with that scholarship money, the access that you're being given to these professors that are world renowned, right? Take advantage while you're in that space and get your degree, right? Because only 0.00001% are able to play at that professional level. So when you're given access to people, right? Even like today, you have access to 3 people that are doing well, 4 people that are doing well in different spaces of the community, right? Listen, lean in, ask questions. Hey, how can we contact and reconnect, right? Because that is what's going to allow you to kind of move forward. So a little bit back to what I was referring to as far as the sports space, right? And how do we navigate that as parents? And some of the things that I see that are a big issue is, number one, that this AAU environment, from basketball to volleyball to soccer, now you see football coming in with the 7-on-7 tournaments. Save your money, right? Save your money. It's more, if I was going to spend money, I would be more worried about developing my kid, finding somebody that's knowledgeable about the game and the space, that's a great person of character, and put my son or daughter around them so that they can develop the skills right? The athletic skills, but also the mental fortitude as far as being able to navigate these spaces as the competition gets higher, right? Yes, we want them to play game and compete and go to certain showcases, but it doesn't have to be every single weekend. You don't have to play 20 games in 4 days. That makes no sense. You're not getting better. You're just reinforcing whoever you are. That's not making you a better athlete. So I would say that would be the number one. We need to refocus and get back to practicing more than we play. Number two in this space, right? Really understanding what your role is as a parent in the process, right? I think we have some parents that are way too overbearing, and we need to understand obviously you're in a supportive role. You aren't the star, you aren't the main character, right? And so you have to figure out what that looks like in a healthy way, because I know a ton of college coaches that will steer clear of certain players because their parents are overbearing. Not that they're trying to advocate for their kids, but they're trying to be the show and trying to figure out, how can I get mine in the process? How can I coach in the process? Like, whoa, right? So some of that is out of fear because you don't know. Maybe some of it's out of necessity, right? But you have to redefine what your role is and maybe ask some people so you can navigate the space appropriately and don't become, I think, your own worst enemy in a lot of ways. And I think that also refers to how you coach your kid or how you parent your kid, right? I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but I think there's ways that are better than some, right? If your kid is constantly looking over to you for approval, I think that's an issue, right? Because you're not going to always be there. And so you need to be developing strong, resilient young people that are able to be resilient when you're not around. And I think there's a right way to kind of equip, build, and then kind of start weaning them off as they get into high school and college so that they can be strong people when you're not around. Because oftentimes that's what happened to me in a different way. When you get away from that support system, you start finding the cracks and falling apart because I wasn't built and equipped to really handle that on my own. And so we need to get back to that as parents as well, as far as making sure we're raising strong men and women of valor so that when we send them off, they're able to navigate these spaces on their own, right? And this starts as early as middle school, right? So if my kid right now, I have a junior and an 8th grader. If they got an issue with their teacher, you email your teacher. I'm not talking to your teacher, right? We got to start putting our kids in these spaces to where they can start navigating some of these relationships and do it in a respectful way where I'm asking, hey, what did I do? What can I do better? I did turn in my assignment, or this is the reason why I didn't. Let me know what I can do. It may be wrong, right? We got to start equipping. And then I would say also with that, there's a thin line, right? So we got to help our kids understand how to protect themselves, how to grow. So, right, helping them understand what they need to be watching, reading, listening to, what people they should have around them, the type of thoughts they should have, self-talk, right? How do they visualize? And the better you're at it, right? Because your actions are going to be more powerful than your words, right? The more they're going to be better at it, right? So got to want to call the parents up for that. And then I think kids, our young people, right? Understand that your choices and your decisions based on your choices have consequences, right? Good and bad. And so I think, especially in the world of social media, that's grown, right? Sometimes we're behind clicking, right? And I'm typing. I don't really feel like nobody sees it. It gives you this false sense of security. And then you put it out there on Twitter, right? And you say some stuff that don't make no sense. And people are like, what? Right? That is a representation of you, right? And we know you're young, but it's still a representation of you. And why would anybody that's going to give you, right, and say, I don't know, my alma mater, Cal, to go to school if you're out of state is $60 grand a year, right? So why would I invest in you, right? You got it, because it's a business, if you're putting some nonsense on social media, right? Because they don't know you. So all they can do is ask the people around you, see what you're posting, right? See what type of videos you're putting out there, see how you act at a tournament, right? So your choices that you have, every day you have a choice of what you want to do. Now, what decision are you going to make with that? And then you have to live and be okay with the consequences. Now, I'm never going to judge anybody off of a one-time thing, right? I think there's room to grow, but you have to understand that every time you do that, every tweet, it means something. So if I were you, I would go through it. Hey, is this a representation of who I want people to think I am? because it's a resume, right? None of you guys got real jobs where I can go and talk to people. So I'm gonna look at what you're doing on social. What are you doing? What are you doing with, oh, whoa, what is that? Can I bring him in here? Because it's a liability for that institution or that team that wants to hire you and have you work for them. That's a liability for a brand that may want to pay and partner with you because of who you are and what you do, right? So all those things matter. Academics, they matter, right? Can you survive at that school? I was just at UVA with my daughter. Got a opportunity to walk around the campus with their athletic director, again, out of another relationship. She was at Georgia with one of my teammates called. We got access to her and she showed us around. And she was like, yeah, we only can recruit certain types of kids. And I would always tell my daughters, especially my older one, I have a great story with her, because she was like, hey, Dad, I got a B. But I said, you're capable of an A, right? So why get a B when you're capable of an A? And one time we went to a university in Arizona, and if she would have had another A or so, she would have qualified for a university scholarship and they pay for all 4 years, right? So do your best, right? So whatever that is, strive for that, and it opens up doors. It opens up doors to like UVA, Stanford, other places, and then you get your choice, right? So maximize your ability in whatever you do. I know academics is hard, but again, if we can be disciplined in some of these things we don't like, oftentimes our dreams and our goals line in that work that we're trying to avoid. And that goes to also on the field, right? So owning our craft. Again, earlier I said, our words and our actions, or our words and our actions should match up, right? And your actions always going to speak louder than your words. So don't tell me you want to be a starter in high school and you want to be a top tier kid and you want to get an NIL deal and you want to go to Alabama if you ain't willing to go and work out and watch film and take notes, right? Ask questions, right? Try to guard the best player, even though you may fail. Don't tell me you want to do that if you're not willing to do those things. So there's a whole list of things that you have to do. You have to own your craft, right? You essentially say, I want to be a professional athlete, because getting a scholarship and getting NIL money means you're a professional. They're paying you, compensating you for something that you bring to that university, and you have to act like it. And you have to position yourself, because it's millions of kids that are fighting for those same things. So what makes you different? And oftentimes it's the mental IQ, right? Your mental toughness, your grit, resilience. How do you respond to failure? Because we all fail way more than we win. And so the person that's able to grow from those, learn from those, and not really dwell in those failures are often the people that are able to rise above and perform in high anxiety, chaotic situations, right? And then last, you got to put the time in. It can't be like, oh, I'm going to do it this week, and then next week, I'm going to do it for a month, and then nope, I'm good. I'm going to do it this game. I don't know who you are. I can't trust you. Right? I had a coach tell me that I don't play the best players. Again, I play the people that I trust. In any sports organization, any business organization, they want to bring in people that they can trust and they know that's going to get the job done and grow over time, right? Because talent is just where you start at. If you don't cultivate it, I'm gonna eventually pass you. And again, I think that's why I was able to play 15 years. I'm not the most talented dude, ain't the best football player, but I was humble, ready to learn from the people around me, grow, put that work in, and over time, incrementally got better as my career went on. And so when I was 36 in the NFL and people were like, how you do this? It was because all the work, the dark work that I had put in, nobody had seen. So I wasn't surprised. People around me wasn't surprised, right? But all the outsiders were. So just continue to work in the dark, right? And it will come. And it takes a long time to do it. You have to have patience. That's one of the things you have to have. And patience means long suffering. So it may not show up when you want it to show up, but eventually it will, and that's going to learn to long-term success. So
thank you so much.
yeah, so
crazy.
definitely appreciate you. Hopefully that stuff resonates with some of you guys, and that
Yeah.
you take some of those things out. And again, as I said, I'm a resource. You have access to us now, and you can always reach out. I know I threw it in the group chat as far as my email, my website. So feel free to reach out and ask additional questions.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you see the kind of talent we have in this group here. It's going to be just helpful parents, kids, the coaches, the universities, businesses, and everyone else. So really, that was fantastic. I appreciate that. All right, so, well, Velma, let's try you. You're pretty steady right now. So let's put you on. As I already introduced you as the new CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona, but you have some other businesses that you work on, and you have a great history of accomplishment and many awards. And I want you to, not be shy about sharing that, and also about your role as a mom and how important that's been as well.
Well, thank you, Denise Meredith, for having me. I'm honored to be here today. So I will start off with my role as a mom because that's near and dear to my heart. So I have a 13-year-old athlete who actually, at one point in time, I think it was about a month ago, he was actually playing on 3 football teams. And so he was playing on 3 teams at one time, and it was driving me nuts. On top of that, he is also an entrepreneur. So he owns a brand, a manufacturing apparel line called We Kings with a Z, We Kings Bro. Inspiring kids to be cool the positive way is his tagline. And he's actually been featured on ABC 15 and all of them. So if you guys were to Google King Monty, We Kings Bro, you can actually see that stuff out there. Anyway, he was inspired to become an entrepreneur at a very early age. After I took him on Skid Row in Los Angeles, California, to show him all of the homeless people, miles and miles and miles of homeless people. I wanted to take him there because I thought it was really important to show how bad choices could ultimately lead to those type of outcomes. So I shared with him that, when you do good, then this is the outcome of doing good. But when you make bad decisions, when you hang with the wrong people, when you go down the wrong track, when you start off, thinking that you can recreationally use drugs, because and nowadays they think that it's fun to do certain things. It's hip, it's fly. And I had to explain to him that oftentimes a drug addict don't start using drugs knowing that they're going to end up being a drug addict. They start off with something small, and then it increases. Their desires increase, and then so does the drug increase, and then they by product, by way of actually doing all of those drugs, they just end up being a drug addict. And for me, I was born and raised in poverty. My mother had me at the age of 14. And with knowing and seeing how my family, how addiction was like really in my family line, I thought, you know what, it is very important for me to be a voice for the next generation, and starting with my own son. And in that, so I am the first generation entrepreneur. I am the first generation college degree. I'm the first generation millionaire in my family. I am the first generation everything in my family. So I was able to get myself out of poverty. But not only that, but now I am inspiring and empowering people all around the world. So I wanted to start there as a base because I'm a mother at core. I am a believer. I am a faith-driven woman. And everything I do is driven by purpose. I'm driven by purpose. And so solving problems is what I exist to do. I believe that we're all put on this earth to solve problems, whether we want to say that we are or not. We were here, we're created to solve problems, and that's why God created us. We have solutions to problems on the inside of us. And so I have built my life around solving problems. So being born and raised in poverty, in Houston, Texas, I always tell people that I'm from the hood. Nobody believes it, but I tell them, look, I am from the hood. I am from Third Ward. I went to a HBCU. Then I got my doctorate degree in Christian business and leadership, because everything I do, I wanted to make sure that I built it on biblical foundations, biblical principles, because I believe that's what's going to last. I believe that is what's going to withstand, especially in the day and time that we're in right now. We're in some really crazy times. Not to talk about any politics on this, but my heart was hurting in pain the other day during the presidential debate. you know, I thought, neither one of them fits my criteria. At this point, I wish I could run for the president, right? And so, going back to sports, my 13-year-old, again, entrepreneur, I was actually recruited to Arizona right in the middle of COVID. I was recruited here by WIHK to come and work with the state on advancing minority businesses and moving the Arizona economy forward. Prior to that, my consulting company called ThinkZilla Consulting Group started 11 years ago in Houston, Texas, as a marketing and public relations strategy firm, working with pastors like Bishop T.D. Jakes, Pastor Keon Henderson, just to name a few. And then 3 years into the company, we started to receive interest from public and private companies that wanted us to build out community engagement programs for them. And so within that, building entrepreneurial ecosystems across the country, in 2022, I was awarded by the White House with a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award for helping thousands of entrepreneurs to rise above the poverty line. And so, being here in Arizona, as you mentioned, I am the newly appointed president and CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona, which I do not take that lightly. And Denise, kudos to you for starting the chamber 26 years ago. I feel like, you know, we always have to pay homage to the people that started, that paved the way, because, you know, we can only imagine what you had to endure and go through as a Black chamber 26 years ago in Arizona. Okay, so we ain't gonna get on that. But anyway, that's a whole nother story, a whole nother talk for a whole nother day. So I honor you for that. And so in the role right now, my job is to really help as many Black entrepreneurs as possible to rise above the poverty line, get access to contracting opportunities. I believe that contracting opportunities is a way to close the racial wealth gap. When we talk about closing the racial wealth gap and getting people above poverty lines, we have got to tap into resources, public and private resources, that our communities can scale forward. And in that, access to capital and contracting opportunities. As an example, one of our Impact AZ programs last year, we were able to help entrepreneurs get $2 million worth of contracts. And so that's the type of impact that I'm looking to do. I love Arizona. Again, I've been here maybe 3.5 years. However, it's very hot. It's very hot. And I don't know how long, but I'm telling you, it's so hot. I told one of my friends the other day that if you want to know if you're going to go to hell, you need to stop in Arizona, because it's a pit stop before hell. So it is truly a pit stop before hell. I don't know how people say, oh, it's just dry heat. You're gonna get used to it. No, I will never get used to it. And no, it's nothing sexy about dry heat. So that's that. So I have a lot of humor. I'm a best-selling author. I authored a book in 2017 called When God Says Go, Turning Your Storms into an Unshakable Relationship with God, Leaving It All Behind. I went through a divorce, and my ex-husband said that I would never be anything. And so I had to show him, I had to prove that God had a plan for my life, not what you have, but what God has for me, right? And so in that, when I left Houston, my son was 5 years old. And he's just been with me. And so through meetings and everything, he was 5 years old in meetings taking notes. I don't really know what the notes were at the time, but now I can say I'm thankful that at the age of 13, he's a pioneering entrepreneur and athlete. I believe that it is important to, as young athletes, emerging athletes, it's important to keep purpose at the forefront of everything. With him, I make sure that I keep purpose at the forefront. Yes, he's, you know, a teenager, and he's seeing things and thinking that things are cool that ain't really cool. And so we have to, you know, show them this is what happens when you go down this path, right? And then this is what happens when you do the right thing. And so that's kind of where I am. And I said a lot. I don't want to ramble too much because I can go on and on. But again, I just want to leave anyone that watches this webinar with this. Your gift will make room for you. your gift. Whatever your gift is, it's an inherited capacity that was placed on the inside of you before you were born. So if we begin to walk in our gifts and if we begin to walk in our purpose, I believe there is absolutely nothing that we cannot accomplish. I believe that we can do anything that we put our mind to. And I also believe that the mind is a terrible thing to waste. And not just saying it cliche, because a lot of people say it just very cliche, but it is truly a terrible thing to waste. I was able to get myself out of poverty. We have thousands of other entrepreneurs across the country that was able to rise above the poverty line through walking in their purpose. And so stay true to who you are, be an authentic version of yourself. The world don't need any additional copycatters. People think that they have to be conformed to be like this person or to be like that person. But they don't. One thing I'll say is, Denise, you may know this. I was just named one of the most influential women in Arizona in 2024 by AZ Big Media. I don't take that for granted because I've only been in Arizona 3.5 years. And some people will say she ain't been here long enough, but this isn't about tenure. This is about impact. So when you're walking in your purpose and when you're making impact, the sky is the limit. So
congratulations. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, we're doing pretty well here. And this is just the start, ladies and gentlemen. Just the start. Okay, we're gonna go to Mike. Mike, who are you?
Yes, ma'am. I am back.
Or something? Or
Look, I seen my Wi-Fi was messing up, so I ran out to the car, and I do apologize for the
oh,
lag.
no,
But
that's
man,
fine.
Miss Denise, you had the people that went in front of me from Lorenzo to Dr. Velma are phenomenal. And just touching on what they touched on is by being able to be yourself. I think I was going through my story with just giving parents and athletes the insight on what that looks like when you're going into college. One of the things that Lorenzo touched on is trust. These coaches have to trust. And one of the things that I became after I left the NFL was a systematic thinker. I really became a systematic thinker and started looking at the way that systems work is because I didn't know how the NFL worked, the business side of the NFL. And I remember I was retired. I was battling through suicide. I didn't know my purpose, didn't know my way. And I had the opportunity to meet the vice president of the NBA PA, Krista Chen. And with talking with Krista Chen, she was able to really show me where I was falling short at because when a lot of players retire, they feel, she and I use her words, she called me a broke, bitter player. She said, Mike, you don't sound nothing like these other broke, bitter players that have been broken, bodies literally broken, and you don't know what else to do. And you sit here and rag on the NFL, which the NFL didn't do you wrong. Nobody just taught you about the business side of this game. And that's where you all fall short at. And once she told me that, it really sparked something in my mind. It sparked something within me, like Dr. Velma was just saying. God has put a purpose inside of you that nobody can take away. Literally, when I was at Kansas State University, I graduated within 2 years with my undergrad degree, which is crazy. You really don't hear about that. But when individuals ask me, Mike, how did you do that? Well, I took intercession classes. That's one of the beautiful things that athletes have in front of them. And during my time, when I was at Kansas State University, they paid us $745 per class per intercession classes. And so when you have regular student athletes that are taking 6-hour summers, I'm knocking out 18-hour summers, 21-hour semesters just because of I'm taking care of 2 intercession classes. And then I'm running through a whole 15 credit course load because as you're a student athlete, you can't just take the bare minimum 12 hours. They want to give you an extra credit course just in case you fail a class or things of that nature. You have to balance so much. And so one of the things I would definitely share, I have literally experienced probably every situation you can experience in college, from having a major surgery back in 2015, my body went through rhabdomyolysis in 2014, which that's when your muscles start breaking down in your kidneys. 8 out of 9 doctors told me I never played a game of football again, that they'll crack my skull open, pull my whole pituitary gland out, and I'll be on medicine for the rest of my life. It was one doctor that said they can do an experimental surgery down at the National Institution of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, to where they went in, they cut under my lip, broke my nose, moved my nose to the side, and they went through my nasal canal and cut my brain tumor out piece by piece. I had a brain tumor playing football in college that had my creatinine, my testosterone level performing as a 77-year-old man, and nobody knew where they came from. And so when Dr. Velma touched on when God put something inside of you, and I had a vision for some reason, I don't know. I know now I had to have brain surgery, but before then, you couldn't tell me why I had to have brain surgery. You couldn't tell me why I had to experience some of the things that I had to experience, but it wasn't for me. It was for those that are coming behind me, those that I was playing ball with, for them to be able to see myself working through and walking through this challenge and not be defeated. I set a goal when I was 5 years old to make it to the NFL. And I thank God to the day I was able to do that after having brain surgery at Kansas State University. One of the critical things that I learned during my year when I was with the LA Chargers, because I had to have back surgery. So what forced me to retire, brain surgery, back surgery, Mike, we can't pay for your body no more. You're a liability. Now the player inside of me is saying, man, I done made it through back brain surgery. Like, I done walked through back surgery. Like, I am resilient. Like, I would run through walls. I wanted to die on the field, but God had another plan and said, that's not your past, that's not so. And that's what I mean. And I talk about understanding the business side of the game and understanding the physical side of the game. Now, going into college, I had 2 kids in college and I was married in college. One of the things I would definitely share with our student athletes is that I remember a conversation, and I shared this with my mom the other day. My mom asked me, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I remember when I was when we had my first son, we're about to have my first son, Chance, and I was about to marry my wife, Victoria. My mom didn't have any problems with my wife, but she begged me and said, son, you are not ready to get married. A man needs to have his things in place and in order before you get married so that you can take care of take care of your family properly. So you can have your baby, you can be with your woman, but just wait because you're not ready for that responsibility. Being hard-headed and think you know everything, I ended up getting married to my wife, which was beautiful. We had 2 kids, but I got a divorce 3 days before the draft. And that, believe it or not, that is what almost took me out and what made me want to kill myself and commit suicide, because at the same time I gained the world, I lost my soul at the very same time. I lost my family when I went into the NFL. And so what I would tell you, students and parents, today is understand the system that you're going in. For those athletes that are saying that D1 athletes, I wish they had NIL money when we was playing. I mean, coming back from brain surgery, Mr. Denise, Lorenzo, like really, what are we talking about right now? We'll be rolling. But outside of that, just truly understanding that this game is going to end one day for all of us. For some, it ends after high school. For some, it ends after college. Some do go pro, but you have to figure out, what are you going to do to provide for your family after that game is done? When I retired from the NFL in 2019, I became the vice president of the Dallas-Fort Worth NFLPA chapter. Now, I saw and I met so many former players that I looked up to and that I idolized, that played the game, that created the game, that we love so much. And some of those individuals were struggling to transition. And I was baffled about why is that. But one of the things Lorenzo talked about is being able to know your network, know how to be able to talk to and have conversation and don't meet a stranger, because your classmate could be your next business partner, could be in a company or in a position to where you need to be able to connect with them and you need to be able to talk with anybody. So when we go into high schools today, I talk to our students about, hey, your classroom is your coworkers, and your principal is your teacher is your principal. Your teacher is your manager. Your principal is your CEO, and you have to be able to formulate relationships within this classroom so that you're able to navigate this system. Another thing that Lorenzo talked about, and I would definitely second this: parents, be a parent. Don't be your student athlete's friend, because you have your whole life to do that once they make it through this pivotal time. But as they are developing and as they are getting prepared to provide for their family and become adults, please stay in that role, in that space as being a parent, and have your stuff together to where you're not dependent on your child to make a way for you. No, we hold ourselves up by our own bootstraps, because what that does for athlete, once the game is done and you're putting them in these 7-on-7 leagues and you're playing ball the whole, all year long, which I would tell you, NFL players do not play ball all year long. We rest, we have a break, and we make sure and we're not playing games every weekend. We have a set time when we're able to play games and when we have to rest. And Anthony Lynn shared this with us, and I know I'm close to my time, so I'll end with this.
Oh, that's fine.
Anthony Lynn shared with us while we was playing with the Chargers. He said, guys, I didn't fall in love with the game until I had outside income coming into my household and I wasn't worried about the NFL paying my bills. Athletes, you have an opportunity and a position today now to be able to set yourself up to make money while you're in school, to where mom and dad is not coming to ask to borrow money. No, we're going to set up a business so that we can put them in position to run your business. And you have extra money coming in on top of your football money, and they actually have a salary and an income to where they're not coming into your pockets. The same thing with your other family members. Like, you're in a pivotal time now and you have resources in front of you. Dr. Velma, like literally Dr. Velma is here and she was able to get an award from the United States government. Like, ladies and gentlemen, that is phenomenal. That doesn't happen on your everyday. And so be able to tap in with the resources that you have and utilize them, because a lot of people have to pay for resources like this. A lot of individuals have to, they have a hard time finding them. And with you being here, getting the information, just don't take it for granted and don't let it fall on deaf ears. I thank you for my time. Thank you for Ms. Denise for having me. And I'm just totally honored and floored by everybody that went before me. You guys are amazing. I look forward to connecting with you all and helping any way possible.
This is great. No, I appreciate you all. We don't have time for questions and answers. If people have questions, you can send them to our website, www.wishihadknown.net. And we will pass, if you have comments, questions, we'll pass them along to these individuals. I mean, this couldn't have gone better. People, I think, get hung up about stupid stuff, priorities. Okay, yes, tech. And I say that, I'm a person that hates tech. But tech also allows us to do some incredible things, like talking to you all. And we'll clean this up and it'll look just really perfect next week when we put it on the
Denise,
website.
I have one thing, because my son, you asked for him to be on and he said he was out playing football, but he's available to give a couple of seconds worth of something to say to the
Sure.
to the kids.
Is he on?
So I have him on speaker.
Okay.
King, what do you have to say to the next generation of athletes?
Just be a leader and don't and tell you that you can't do anything. Trying to stay positive and stay consistent and follow your dreams.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you very
Good
much.
advice. Great.
awesome.
Bye, King.
Well, we can have him on later in the season. We'll find a way
That's
to get
awesome.
him on to talk himself. But anyway, you all wonderful. It's great. I mean, I took so many notes myself, but repeat of our last episode with Jerry Colangelo and with Jamie Boggs. Faith is really important, and consistency in relationships. So you all hit on all of those things. So again, and more. So again, I really hope people took a lot of notes. So I appreciate what you say. I want to say to people out there, this is just a start. One, this is the kind of resources, people, references, and referrals that WBC is going to be giving the rest of this year, and even more intense. You'll get to work maybe individually with people like this. They have opportunities. And we'll be working with the students starting in September, but we're starting with parents first. And there's so much, I think, the parents' information that they can give to each other. We're talking about having a private social media site. Parents can talk to each other, et cetera, et cetera. So we're taking this seriously. I want to have 1,000 new business leaders. And I'm going to start with athletes because they have the skills. They have the skills. They've been overlooked. We've wasted a lot of talent all these years, and it stops now. Okay. So with that, thanks to all of you. Thank you to the audience, and we'll see you next time. Next time, we're going to talk about one, as a parent, you're thinking about your son or daughter getting on a team. But next week, we're going to talk about what kind of team you need to have.
Yeah.
What kind of squad you need to put around you and your child to succeed.
Yes.
Okay? With that, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Yeah.